Chapter 21 How closely can you follow up leads? When a man has expressed an interest in the thing you have to sell, how much and how often should you keep after him to buy it? That, in a nutshell, is the whole problem of the follow-up. It is a problem nearly every business has to face, whether it sells by mail, through personal salesmen, or over the counter. And it is a problem no two answer exactly alike. In our own experience, we have found that when you have an inquiry or other evidence of active interest, it pays to follow up that inquiry while it is hot. A series of letters at proper intervals should keep going to him until you have landed his order or concluded that it is unprofitable to work further upon it. What is the proper interval? I have found 10 days to be the most effective. Shorter periods are likely to pile one letter too closely on top of another. Longer intervals give too much time to cool off. Repeated tests have shown that you actually lose a goodly percentage of orders by too slow a follow-up. You lose a few by too close mailing, but not as many. The period in which we have been able to get most orders and most satisfactory results of all kinds was in spacing our mailings 10 days apart. That is what we did with the follow-up on the Mind Incorporated subscriptions mentioned in our last chapter. Feeling that the orders we received were to be taken more as indications of interest than as actual collectible orders, we proceeded to resell them rather than try to collect them. Here are the most successful of the letters we did it with. Dear subscriber, would you like to see $4.85 grow to $9.70 by next July? Let me tell you how. I enclose our check made payable to you for $9.70. The only thing it lacks to make it cashable for $9.70 is our signature. And next July you can have our signature on it, making it good for $9.70 in cold cash. How? By sending me now your check or money order for $4.85 in payment for a full year's course of lessons in Mind Incorporated. Read those lessons. Study them. Use them. At the end of the year, if you can't see where you've got many times $4.85 out of them, just send me the attached check and I'll pay you back your $4.85 and another $4.85 on top of that. You see, I know what phenomenal results these lessons have already accomplished in the lives of others. So I am willing to take the chance of having to pay you $4.85 just to take the 12 lessons. If you think I am taking too big a chance, read this. I am enclosing my check for $25 to send Mind Incorporated to others who are ready for its message. For what I have gained already makes me feel that I have entered a new world. To say that I am grateful is too weak an expression. E.H. Sanger, California, and that is only one of hundreds of letters of a similar tenor we get every day. Do you wonder I am willing to guarantee you your money's worth by offering to pay you back not only $4.85, but another $4.85 on top of it? You can't lose. And you can gain not merely the doubling of your money, but the methods that have brought untold happiness and success to others. To gain these, will you deposit $4.85 with us now with the surety that you will get either of them, or the money on the enclosed check for $9.70, by next July? Sincerely yours, dear friend. Once in a blue moon, there comes an opportunity so unusual, that even if you have to skip a few meals to take advantage of it, it pays you to do it. Such a chance is yours now. You know how first editions of popular books jump in value. And you know how nearly impossible it is to get hold of copies, once the publisher's supply is gone. We printed a limited first edition of what we consider our best work, The Life Magnet. We bound it specially in 5 beautifully done volumes. Most of these have already been sold at $5.85 or higher prices. We have been holding several hundred for a special purpose. Now, at the constant urging of our Camden manager, we have decided to release them. But that isn't all. As long as these were written off for special use, we are going to not merely release them, but practically give them away. If you will send your payment of $4.85 now to Mind Incorporated, for the 12 lessons of the Key to Life course, we will send you one of these first editions of The Life Magnet in 5 beautiful volumes for only $1. The $1 is to cover the cost of shipping the 5 volumes, together with the clerical and overhead expense incidental to it. The books are, in reality, our gift to you. These 5 volume sets are the only ones of the first edition still left, and no more will be printed. For our next edition, we are planning to condense the books into 2 or 3 volumes and offer them to all the readers of the 2,500,000 volumes of The Secret of the Ages which we have sent out during the past 3 years. No endorsement of the Life magnet can be too strong, writes B. Patton of the Patton Products Company, Louisville, Kentucky. It is priceless to anyone who will read and apply the rich treasures there unfolded so freely to him. There's a coupon in the corner of the inside page of this letter. If you mail it right away, it will bring you one of these first editions in 5 beautiful volumes. If it is too late, we will return your coupon and your remittance in full. This is one of those cases where to be lucky, you have to be prompt. Sincerely. Your fortune told free. Past recounted, future foretold. Your past, do you want to know why you have not gotten farther ahead? The answer is simple. It is because you have depended too much upon your hands and your abilities to push you forward. It is as though a tree were to depend for moisture only upon the ability of the roots to force water up the stem. The roots can send water only to a limited height. It requires the pull exerted by the evaporation of the moisture in the leaves to carry water to the top of a tall tree. Depending on the roots alone would result in a forest of stunted trees. Depending entirely on your roots, your hands and your abilities, has just as surely stunted the success that was meant for you. Your future, what, then, are you to do? Wait for some outside force or some bigger man to help you on? No, indeed. The pull that carries water 100 or more feet into the air to the top of a tall tree, and enables that tree to overshadow the whole forest, comes from a power inherent in the tree itself. There is a certain point below which that pull will not reach. There is a certain point beyond which the roots cannot force the water. The 2 points must overlap, or the water will never reach the top. They have not overlapped with you heretofore, therefore you have not reached the height you were intended to. You have been working on root pressure alone. You are going to learn, first, how to exert more pressure with your roots, second, and more important, how to start the pull of the leaves, to carry you on from the point where the root pressure stops. When you have done that, your tree is going to top the forest, as a giant redwood tops a forest of spruce. And the way you are going to learn is through the key to life lessons given in Mind Incorporated the present. Every minute you delay, you are holding back your growth, retarding your development, depriving the new shoots in your family of the nourishment and the sunshine that will make them in turn into noble trees. If you had only $5 to your name, you could not invest it to better advantage than by sending $4.85 for this course. We can honestly say that in our belief, until you have learned the principles therein set forth, you will never be the success you were meant to be, you will never stand head and shoulders over those around you. And nowhere else have we been able to find these principles clearly expressed. Sincerely, dear customer, what is the eternal question which stands up and looks you and every sincere man squarely in the eye every morning? How can I better my condition? That is the real-life question which confronts you, and will haunt you every day till you solve it. And there is only one place where you can solve it. That is in your own mind. Opportunity, advancement, and the means that bring them all start right there in your own mind. That is why the next 3 lessons of the Key to Life course give you first the 3 laws of life and then show you how to use your mind to work with those laws for success. It has been estimated, that 60% of the forces making for success or failure in life lie outside yourself. But those forces can be worked with, they can be made to work for you, they can be harnessed like all the other forces of nature. And the whole purpose of Mind Incorporated is to show you how. Well, what do I do now? You ask. Simply send the enclosed envelope, with your check or money order enclosed. The next lesson, giving the 3 laws of life, will come to you immediately, showing you what to do and how to do it. Remember this, a thing that will make you money tomorrow will make you more today. The sooner you get it, the more it will make. Delays pay no dividends. So sit down now, write out your check, and mail it in the enclosed envelope. Yours for success this year, not 10 years from now. Dear subscriber, the best success course we have ever seen consisted of 2 words. Those 2 were short and to the point, but they required a lot of action. They were be it. For success consists not of getting, but of being, not of learning, but of doing. It takes years to become a doctor or a lawyer or a first-class mechanic, but you can start being a success from the moment you make up your mind to be one. You have right now all the equipment you need to be a success in some line of work. Education? A few years ago, Russell Conwell looked up the record of America's 4,043 men worth $5 million or over and found that only 67 of them had even a high school education. Money? Of all the young men who started life with large amounts of money, Conwell found that only 1 in 17 succeeded. The big men, the successful men, have been for the most part poor men, uneducated men. What, then, is the answer? There is in every man all the qualities necessary to success in life. All that is necessary is that he use these inherent gifts, and the way to use them, the simple, easily followed directions, are given you in the Key to Life lessons which make up the contents of Mind Incorporated. All of nature radiates, gives out, whatever it has, and as it gives out, it grows. Look up any of the miracles of increase in the Bible, and you will see that all started not from nothing, but from using, giving out, what they had. The widow's cruse, the loaves and fishes, the talents all increased when given out. Whereas you remember what happened to the man who buried his talent. The same thing is happening every day to men who, through ignorance or overcaution, bury their talent now. They are cast into the outer darkness of poverty and weeping and vain repining. You have a talent. You can learn to use it, and Mind Incorporated will show you how. Will you use the envelope form enclosed to give out your talent, and see it increase and multiply? Or will you bury it in the nearest wastebasket? Yours for increase. Will you lend me $2 for a few days? Have you ever planted a bulb in your garden, and then dug it up a few days later? If you have, you know that the first thing any seed does is to send a sprout upward, using the energy latent in itself to send forth this shoot. Not until it has used all its own energy, does it reach out roots to draw nutriment from the soil. You planted a seed of riches when you sent for the first lesson of the Key to Life course given in Mind Incorporated. That seed sent forth its shoot when it brought you the first lesson free. Before it can grow higher and bear fruit for you, it must have roots. Will you lend me $2 long enough to give your seed the necessary roots? Those $2 will bring you, first, the 3 laws of life, which show you why fortune seems to favor the few and pass the many by. Second, the open door, which gives you the methods that bring riches and success. Third, the soul of riches, which contains the only sure method to increase riches. Fourth, the law of the higher potential, which shows you the way out of debt or sickness. With the open door, there is a story which alone is worth all of your $2. It is called the Magic Story. 100,000 copies of it were sold in book form for $2. This story is worth $25 to any man, wrote the general manager of the Pratt & Lambert Company, of Buffalo. To a few men, it is worth a fortune. The seed of your fortune is planted. It has sprouted a shoot that can grow into a mighty tree, bearing golden fruit for you. But it needs nourishment. The enclosed envelope is its root, reaching out for nutriment. Will you risk $2 on it? Then just fold it in this letter and mail it in the enclosed envelope. You can have it back any time you return the lessons. Sincerely. Dear customer. Did you ever as a youngster, sneak up behind some stray dog, or the neighbor's cat, and suddenly throw your trusty lasso, made of mother's clothesline, about its protesting neck? Remember how that poor animal squirmed and clawed in its efforts to free itself. How sometimes a specially active one did work itself free. But if you got 2 ropes on it, yours and that of some friend not even the most strenuous efforts ever enabled your victim to win free. You had him, for good and all. That, in effect, is what you do when you use your mental powers to bring to you something you greatly want. No matter how earnest your desire or prayer, things sometimes refuse to stay put when you work on them alone. But get another too. Throw the lasso of his consciousness around it, too, and there is nothing you cannot win. Again I say unto you, Jesus told us, that if 2 of you shall agree on earth as touching anything they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. An old truth, clearly put. It has been known to man for thousands of years. 2,000 years before Christ, it was written in the Vedas of the Hindus, if any 2 people will unite their psychic forces, they can rule the world, even though singly they can do nothing. Why, then, have not more people used it? Principally because so few people know how to unite their psychic forces. Where it has been done, as in the group in Philadelphia described in the enclosed circular, the results have never failed. In lessons 9 and 10 of the Key to Life course in Mind Incorporated, you find clear, simple directions how to unite your psychic forces with those of friends or loved ones to bring you what you want. These 2 lessons alone, we believe, will show you how to get what you want. But you can do it a lot easier if you have the background of understanding given by the 8 lessons that went before, and the 2 others that follow. To make it easy for you to get these, and to give you helpers who can work with you for any purpose, we are enclosing 3 envelope order blanks for the use of your friends. For each of these we receive, with first payment of $1 enclosed, we will allow you a credit of $1.50 against your own subscription. If all 3 are sent in, we will regard it as full payment of $4.85, entitling you to the 12 lessons of the Key to Life course. In Mind Incorporated without charge. Will you print your name plainly on the 3 envelopes on the line under recommended by, then give them to 3 friends whom you'd like to have working with you, first letting them read the enclosed circular. Yours for mutual help. If you have ever dug up a seed a few days after it was planted, you know that the first thing a seed does is to send a sprout upward, using the energy latent in itself to send forth this shoot. Not until it has used all its own energy does it reach out roots to draw nutriment from the soil. You planted a seed of riches when you sent for the first lesson of the Key to Life course given in Mind Incorporated. That seed sent forth its shoot when it brought you the first lesson free. Before it can grow higher and bear fruit for you, it must have roots. Will you risk $1 to give it that necessary nutriment? $1 will bring you, first, the 3 laws of life, which show you why fortune seems to favor the few and pass the many by, how you can use those 3 laws to draw to you what you want. Second, the open door, which gives you the methods that bring riches and success. With the open door, there is a story which alone is worth all of your $1. It is called The Magic Story. 100,000 copies of it were sold in book form for $2. This story is worth $25 to any man, wrote the general manager of the Pratt and Lambert Company of Buffalo. To a few men, it is worth a fortune. The seed of your fortune is planted. It has sprouted a shoot that can grow into a mighty tree, bearing golden fruit for you. But it needs nourishment. The enclosed envelope is its root, reaching out for nutriment. Will you risk $1 on it? Then just fold it in this letter and mail it in the envelope. It's already stamped. Sincerely. Good morning, sir. Remember how you used to plow through great masses of work day after day, and month after month, cheerily, enthusiastically, with never a sign of tiring or nervous strain? Remember how you used to enjoy those evenings, starting out as fresh from your office or shop as if you hadn't just put a hard day's work behind you? No doubt you've often wondered why you can't work and enjoy yourself like that now, but solaced yourself with the moth-eaten fallacy that as a man grows older, he shouldn't expect to get the same fun out of life that he did in his earlier years. Poor old, exploded idea. Youth is not a matter of time. It is a state of being. You can be just as brisk, just as active, just as light-hearted now as you were 10 or 20 years ago. All over the world sick, weak and devitalized men and women are searching for health and strength. By the hundreds and thousands, they drag their weary and aching bones around or languish on sick beds, waiting for someone to bring health to them corked up in a bottle. But real, lasting health was never found in pill boxes or medicine bottles. There is only one way to hold on to health and youth. There is only one way to get them back after you have lost them. That way is clearly outlined in the September and October issues of Mind Incorporated, giving lessons 5 and 6 of the Key to Life course. If you have lost the bloom of youth, if sickness or weakness is holding you back, send for these 2 lessons. If you have ever wondered what was the basis for the seeming miracles you so often read of in the papers, if you are looking for the hidden factor in all healing of disease, send for them. They are as fundamental as Einstein's law of the universe, as revolutionary as Harvey's discovery of the circulation of the blood. And when you have read them, you will say they are as important to the practice of healing as Einstein's law is to physics. They account for every so-called miracle, every case of healing. They show how you can work miracles with your body. $1 attached to this letter and mailed in the enclosed envelope will bring you these 2 lessons. You can have the $1 back any time by returning the lessons to us. $1 for the secret of health and strength. That means that the question is not, will you risk it? But can you afford not to try it? Sincerely yours. How long did we continue to follow up these names? As long as the letters gave us a profitable volume of returns. That length of time varies with different propositions. Sometimes 4 or 5 letters will sift out all the profitable orders. Sometimes it takes 10 or 15 to do it. In our case, we used 8 to 10 letters at regular 10-day intervals. Then, when the returns approached the vanishing point, we let the names rest for a month or 2, circularizing them only on special offers like The Secret of Youth, The Lost Word, etc. By giving them a complete rest in between, we were able to get about as good returns from these special offers as from any letter in the regular follow-up. Those who remitted in full for their subscriptions were taken out of the list, of course, and put on the regular subscription list. When their subscriptions expired, they received half a dozen follow-ups until they, in turn, ceased to show a profit. Then they too were put aside to get special circulars only, and after a little rest they proved to be one of our most profitable lists for other offers. Here are 4 of the most effective renewal follow-ups we used on them. Dear customer, may we send you, with our compliments, an autographed set of The Secret of the Ages in 7 handsomely bound volumes, the regular $7.85 edition? We are planning a less expensive edition, in a condensed form, but before bringing it out, we want to clear our shelves of the fine bindings, and we can think of no quicker or surer way of doing this than to autograph one of them to you, as an appreciation of your interest in the Lessons of Mind Incorporated. We are therefore making this offer to as many of you who have sent for copies of Mind Incorporated, as we have sets of The Secret of the Ages on hand. Send the enclosed reservation certificate, calling for the 12 Lessons of Mind Incorporated, and we will ship you at once an autographed set of The Secret of the Ages, the $7.85 edition, of which over 300,000 sets were sold. The Secret of the Ages gives you the secret back of all success, all riches, all happiness. The 12 Lessons of Mind Incorporated show you how to apply that secret to bring to you whatever things of good you may want. No one who reads even a few of these lessons is going to leave any stone unturned. To win the rewards that they make possible, by sending the attached certificate now, you not only ensure those rewards, but you get without 1 cent of extra cost an autographed copy of The Secret of the Ages. A $7.85 present without charge of any kind. Will you mail your reservation certificate now today? Sincerely yours. P.S. If it is impossible for you to take advantage of this offer now, won't you kindly say so on the reservation certificate, so we can extend it to some other interested reader of Mind Incorporated? Mr. John Blank. Blankville, New York. Dear Mr. Blank, will you give me a little information about yourself, just a memo of some personal equipment you have accumulated? Back in the fall of '98, you remember, when the gold rush started, thousands of hopeful prospectors landed at Dyea Beach without a thing but the clothes on their backs. If they had reached the Klondike, not only they but hundreds of others would have starved to death, for already there was scarce enough food to go around. But the Canadian Northwest Mounted Police decreed that no man could cross Chilkoot Pass into the Yukon without 1 ton of provisions, and $1,000 to buy equipment. The others? They had to get back where they came from, that was all. They were like the traveler steward Edward White tells of, who woke up in the beyond, at the foot of the long, long trail, and the thing that bothered him, old explorer, that he was his failure to bring with him anything useful in the way of equipment. He felt like one of those poor saps who go off on a hunting trip with low shoes, a cotton blanket, and everything essential forgotten, so the old-timers have to pull their stuff to fit them out, just to keep them from perishing. He had blessed out such fellows 100 times, yet here he was in the same boat. True, there were no mounted police to keep him from trying the long trail over the Great Divide, but there was a dump heap called hell where all waste and use less material was burned. That word hell, you know, in the New Testament is Gehenna, and it comes from the Vale of Hinnom, which was a dump heap outside The walls of Jerusalem. Hell is the place for those who cross to the other side without equipment. Hell is the dump heap of useless souls. Have you gathered as much equipment as you are going to need to get over that great divide? Have you learned as much as you'd like of the job you were put here to fit you for? You have a definite part in the scheme of things. You know how definite you will realize if you read the 10th, 11th and 12th lessons of Mind Incorporated whether the cog that is you has to be scrapped, and work delayed while a new one is being made. Depends upon what you are doing now to fit yourself for that work. There are no for sale signs over there, offering bargain lots of equipment at reduced prices. It all has to be taken with you. And the only kind you can take is what you carry in your mind. Mind Incorporated deals in that equipment. In its 10th, 11th and 12th lessons, it tells you specifically what your job is and how you can get together the equipment for it. In the lessons which precede these, it gives the training necessary for that job. And that isn't all. So sure is it that it gives these to you in a way no intelligent man can fail to understand and agree with, that it makes this offer. Send the enclosed envelope order blank for the 12 lessons of Mind Incorporated. Keep them 60 days. Read them, try them, test them in any way you like. If then you are willing to part with them, send them back and get your money back in full. Fair enough? Then use the enclosed envelope order blank to send for the lessons. After you have read them, make a memo of the equipment you have and the extra equipment you will need, and write me. I know a way to gather it together that I believe you will agree is unique. Sincerely yours, dear Mr. Jones. What would you give to be the biggest man in your town, the leader in whatever line of endeavor you are best fitted for? You'd be surprised if I told you there is a page in the Bible which gives you plainly and clearly the way to satisfy this ambition, wouldn't you? Not in any ambiguous language, either, but in short, simple words a child could understand and follow. So simple are they that few people have ever taken these directions seriously, but the few who have won to marvelous power and success. These directions form the basis for the second lesson in the higher consciousness, which comes out in Mind Incorporated, but there is much more to the lesson. Taken alone, that page in the Bible sounds too good to be true. But when you see how the same law holds true in physics, in electromechanics, in surgery, in fact, throughout all of nature, you find it easier to believe and to put it to the test. I personally know one man who had not a cent to his name nor enough food in the house for another meal when this law was brought home to him, yet through it he made a fortune. His experience will be given in his own words in the lesson on the lost word of power. I know others who have won fame, fortune, honors, happiness. What would you give for it? Will you risk $4.85 for it? If you will, I'll promise you this. If it doesn't do as much for you within 3 months as for any of these others whose experiences we give, then it will not cost you a cent, for you have only to tell us so to get your $4.85 back in full. That's fair enough, isn't it? On that understanding, will you mail the attached renewal form? On that guarantee, will you risk $4.85? Sincerely. P.S. If your order is received within 10 days, we will give you your choice of all the premium offers we have: Shakespeare, Bible, Secret of Gold, the new vest pocket, fountain pen and pencil set, etc. Dear Mr. Jones, before giving this idea wide publicity, we are laying it before a few old customers like yourself, whose judgment we value, with the request that you give us the benefit of your opinion. You can help us out of an odd sort of dilemma if you will. You see, scientists believe that the human race is even now in the throes of a new evolution, as startling and far more important than the emergence of Adam and Eve from the simple consciousness of the animal into the self-consciousness of man. You know what a vast change that brought about when man advanced at a single step from the world of mere images and sensations into the universe of ideas. But contrast that with the step which new Adams and new Eves are taking today. And I have no doubt that you are one of them, from a workaday world where each concept has to be added to another, each idea compared with other ideas and the solutions laboriously figured out, to an intuitive consciousness where, like a lightning calculator, you arrive at the correct result without having to bother with any of the intermediate stages. It is the kingdom of heaven which Jesus so often assured us lay within us, the consciousness which he bade us seek, and all things else would be added to us. That intuitive faculty is becoming more and more common, and as a race we are coming nearer and nearer to the stage of self-consciousness from which the transition to the higher consciousness is made. Which brings me back to my difficulty. According to Dr. Richard Buck, who has made a profound study of the intuitive or heaven consciousness, the quickest way to attain this consciousness is through study, and through contact with minds which have, in whole or in part, already reached this stage of development. You see, it was only when Adam and Eve had reached the highest development of simple consciousness that they graduated into self-consciousness. And it is only the topmost layer of self-conscious mankind that is ready for the intuitive consciousness now. Hence our dilemma. We are working to bring together little groups of men and women who have shown evidences of intuitive development, and in the lessons of Mind Incorporated, we give the simple steps that lead from the topmost rungs of simple consciousness into the heaven or intuitive consciousness. But these would be lost on the ordinary reader. Yet we cannot go around with a lantern, like Diogenes, looking for Adams and Eves. So we decided to write you and a few other old customers like yourself to ask your advice. You are above the average in intelligence. You are of the topmost layer of self-conscious mankind. You have shown that you have the earnest desire to climb higher, in intellect and in usefulness. If we came to you and asked you whether your intuitive faculties had shown signs of breaking through their shell, what would you answer us? Just as a favor from one seeker after truth to another, won't you tell us on the attached brief intuitive chart? Perhaps you would like to look over the lessons of Mind Incorporated, and see for yourself how much they would help in breaking quickly into that heaven consciousness. If so, just attach $2 to the chart form as a deposit, and mail it in the stamped, addressed envelope enclosed. It will be returned to you at once if for any reason you send back the lessons. Sincerely. P.S. Please be sure to return the chart whether you want to see the lessons or not. We shall greatly appreciate your courtesy. One of these pulled 12%, another only 8%, the other two averaged about 10%. That is far from bad, even on subscription renewals. Of course, all are aimed at a special class of people interested in psychology and kindred subjects. To the uninitiated, they may sound involved or even ridiculous. But for the audience to which they were directed, they were about as effective pieces of copy as we have often seen. Of a rather similar nature was a series of follow-ups we used on our original set, The Book of Life. One of the offers we tried on this set was to send only the first volume on approval, then require the subscriber to remit $1 before he received each of the remaining 6 books. In a follow-up of that kind, your big problem is to keep the subscriber interested enough to make him want the next volume badly enough to send another $1 for it. It is as though you sent for the first copy of a magazine for examination and had to send 25 cents or 50 cents or $1 each month before getting the next copy. No matter how well you liked the magazine, the chances are that the matter would slip your mind, and the publisher would have to keep jogging you continually to get your money for the next issue. We had to keep continually stirring the reader's interest, holding forth fresh bait, as we expressed it in the first chapter, and that was the job the following letters undertook to do. Dear friend, thank you for your order for the Book of Life. I am sending the first volume with this letter. Read it first of all. Then read the little booklet I am enclosing with it. The sole purpose of this first volume is to give you an idea of what your subconscious mind is and what it can do for you. So read it and reread it. Then I will start showing you how to apply your knowledge. And the first step necessary is to decide, what do you want most from these books? Is it health? Is it happiness? Is it riches? Whatever it is, you can get it if you will use the books in the right way. That is promising a lot, I know. But it is promising only what I have already seen. realized in the lives of hundreds of others. The president of one big Middle Western iron works wrote that they had shown him the way to clear up a difficult situation that meant a gain of $24,000 to him. Personally, the general manager of a $1 million mail order house tells me that they have solved a problem for him that has been troubling him for years. Another man writes that these 7 little books did more for him in 2 days than all the books and courses he had been taking for years, that he had found what he had been seeking for 40 years. One who had been sick and a failure says, "I am 53 years of age, but I thank God in the book of life I am again ready for life in its fullest and grandest sphere." Many write that they have cured themselves of long-standing ailments. Many others that these 7 books have proven to be the 7 keys of success. While numberless letters echo this plea from a reader in Kentucky, for God's sake, get them into the hands of all the young in the middle class who are just launching out in life. Do you wonder, then, that I say they will bring you anything you want of life? Did you see Douglas Fairbanks in The Thief of Baghdad? Remember how he had to struggle and fight and seek far afield for the magic box? But after he had found it, he had only to reach into the box for seeds, ideas, and each seed turned immediately into whatever object he wished for. You have just such a magic box in your subconscious mind. The 7 little volumes I am going to send you are the 7 keys. Use them, one by one, and you can get from your magic box anything you may desire of life. But to get the most out of them, you must take them in their proper sequence. So, I am sending the books one at a time instead of all together. I have found that the better way is to make students read them in their proper order. When you have read and reread Volume 1, when you have formulated in your own mind the one desire that above all others you wish to see realized, now, fill out the form below, attach your first payment of $1, and I will send you Volume 2. It deals with the first law of gain. As for your money, just remember this: if within 6 months you cannot trace directly to these books at least $500 of additional earnings, send them back and I will immediately refund every cent you have paid to me for them. So you can feel perfectly safe in sending your first payment of $1 or your full payment of $6.85. Your money has a string to it. It's not mine until you say so. You can get it back at the end of 6 months, if you are willing to give back the books. Sincerely yours. P.S. If we do not hear from you in 2 weeks, we will take it for granted that you would prefer the easier way of simply paying your $1 to the postman when he delivers Volume 2, and we will forward it accordingly postpaid. In that event, we will send each succeeding volume in the same way as it comes time for it. Dear friend, you've heard of the old man who quit the patent office back in '85 because, as he said, everything had been invented that could be invented. A good many of us are a bit inclined to be like that old man. We hear something that, because of its newness, seems startling, and we say, "Oh, that sounds like this ism or that," and close our minds to it. But just suppose you had never heard of the radio, or the automobile, or an airplane, and someone told you of these wonders. Would you believe him? Surely not. Yet you know that they are facts. So when I tell you of things just as wonderful that you can do through the help of your subconscious mind, do not on that account doubt them. Keep an open mind. Dr. Edwin E. Slauson, editor of Science Service, says, all through the history of science, we find that new ideas have to force their way into the common mind in disguise, as though they were burglars instead of benefactors of the race. We used to believe that the universe was composed of an unknown number of different kinds of matter, one kind for each chemical element. We know now that there are only 2 kinds. Both of these are really kinds of electricity, one negative electricity called the electron, the other positive electricity called the proton. From these, all chemical elements are built up. Wood and iron, images of stone and images of flesh, differ from one another merely in the number and arrangement of the electrons and protons which they contain. That, to quote the New York Herald Tribune, is the modern idea of the nature of matter. Matter is really nothing but electricity. You want happiness, material wealth, success, How are you to get them? The first necessity is to realize that wealth is in ideas, not in actual money. The paper money in your pockets is in itself worth no more than so many Russian rubles. It is the idea behind it that gives it value. Factory buildings, machinery, materials, are in themselves worth nothing, without a manufacturing or a selling idea. They are the mere tools of trade. It is the idea that makes them go. So don't strive for material wealth as such. Use your mind to manufacture the real wealth, which is ideas. There is no limit to the riches you can find there. As Burton Braley puts it, for the best verse hasn't been rhymed yet. The best house hasn't been planned. The highest peak hasn't been climbed yet. The mightiest rivers aren't spanned. Don't worry and fret, faint-hearted. The chances have just begun. For the best jobs haven't been started. The best work hasn't been done. Look around you now. Look for ways of serving people better. Look for short cuts. Look for methods of doing common, ordinary things in some different and better way than they are now being done. And remember, the greatest discoveries have been things everybody has seen, but only one man has noticed. The biggest fortunes have been made out of the opportunities that many men had, but only one man grasped. It doesn't matter what your position may be, what your natural attainments may be. I know a man who, a few years ago, started a mail-order business while he was still in school, on $200 of borrowed capital. Today he is worth $1 million. I know another who, 3 years ago, was working on a small salary. He started a security business, and today is worth millions. The list is endless. It isn't the amount of money you have that counts. It isn't the extent of your education. It is ideas. Napoleon's armies were frequently outnumbered, but he managed to have the most men at the particular point of contact. Napoleon's artillery was frequently inferior to the enemy's, but he massed it at one spot, the spot where it would do the most good. He didn't scatter his forces. He didn't scatter his fire. He focused them on one thing. That is what you must do, focus all your forces on one thing at a time. When a man realizes that his mind is a part of universal mind, just a drop of water from the ocean is part and parcel of the ocean, and has all of the ocean's properties. Just as the spark of electricity is part and parcel of the thunderbolt, and has all the thunderbolt's properties, he loses all sense of limitation. More than half the prophecies in the scriptures refer to the time when man shall possess the earth, when tears and sorrows shall be unknown, when peace and plenty shall be yours for the taking. That time is here and now for those who understand how to avail themselves of the infinite powers of universal mind. And if you don't seem able to accomplish things of yourself, never hesitate to pray for inspiration, or for the means to get what you want. There are more things done by prayer than people dream of. Here is a little formula for prayer that I have found good. First, center your thoughts on the thing that you want. Second, read the 91st and the 23rd Psalms, just as a reminder of God's power and His readiness to help you in all your needs. Third, don't forget to be thankful, not merely for past favors, but for the granting of this favor you are now asking. To be able to thank God for it sincerely, in advance of its actual material manifestation, is the finest evidence of belief. Fourth, believe. Picture the thing that you want so clearly, see it in your imagination so vividly, that for the moment, at least, you will actually believe that you have it. It is this sincere conviction, registered upon your subconscious mind, and through it upon universal mind, that brings the answer to your prayers. Once convince your subconscious mind that you have the thing you want, and you can forget it and go on to your next problem. Mind will attend to the rest. Read Volume 2 of the Book of Life, which I am sending you with this letter. Read it and put it and the suggestions outlined in this letter into practice. Then use the form below to send for Volume 3. It will tell you how to reach most easily your subconscious mind, how to impress upon it the things you desire, how to use it to solve your every problem. Sincerely yours, dear friend, I'm sending you Volume 3 of the Book of Life, but before you even open it, I should like you to read Richard Harding Davis's story The Man Who Could Not Lose. Copy of it is enclosed. At the back of it I have printed a few instructions as to how to apply the principle behind Davis's story to your daily problems. Read it. You will enjoy the story as much as any you have read. And if you will faithfully carry out the instructions that follow it, you will find them the open sesame of life. You realize by now that you have certain powers over conditions, over the world, about you. But you are having difficulty in making good those powers. Don't let that discourage you. When first you learned the principles of arithmetic, your problems did not always work out correctly, did they? Yet you did not, on that account, doubt the principle of mathematics. No, you knew that the fault was with your methods, not with the principle. It is the same in this. The power is there. Correctly used, it can do anything. In the beginning, all was void space nothingness. How did universal mind construct the planets, the firmament, the earth and all things on and in it from this formless void? By first making a mental image on which to build. That is what you, too, must do. You control your destiny, your fortune, your happiness to the exact extent to which you can think them out, visualize them, blue. Print them on your mind and allow no thought of fear or worry to mar their completeness. The quality of your thought is the measure of your power. Clear, forceful, confident thought has the power of attracting to itself whatever it may need for the fruition of its desires. First have something good, said Horace Greeley, then advertise. First have something that the world needs, even if it be only faithful, interested service. Then ask of mind what you will. All that the Father hath is yours, said Jesus. And you have only to look at the heavens at night to realize that He has riches without limit. Reach out mentally and appropriate to yourself the good gifts you desire. You've got to do it mentally before you can enjoy it physically. As Shakespeare put it, 'tis mind that makes the body rich. Remember the story of Alexander and his famous horse Bucephalus? No one could ride the horse, because it was so afraid of every shadow. Alexander faced it too. Towards the sun and rode it. The shadows will all fall behind you too, if you will face towards what you want. Not towards the shadows of poverty and lack. See the things you want as already yours. Know that they will come to you at need. Then let them come. Don't drive them back by fear and worry. Believe. Sincerely yours. P.S. Volume 4 contains the formula of success. As soon as you have read and digested Volume 3, and had time to try out the suggestions outlined above, send in the form below with $1, and Volume 4 will follow at once. Dear friend, do you know what was the talisman of Napoleon? Do you know what it was that made him the greatest conqueror of his age? Not wealth or influence. Napoleon came of a poor Corsican family, without money, without influence. Not training or intellect. Napoleon stood 46th in his class at the military academy, and there were only 60 in the class. No, it was none of these things that made him succeed. The thing that made Napoleon invincible was simply his colossal faith in Napoleon. He didn't believe the bullet had been made that could kill him. He didn't believe the obstacle had been formed that could stop him. And as long as he held to that belief, he was invincible. It was only when he hesitated, when he lost faith in himself, that his enemies overcame him. He marched into Russia at the head of the finest army the world had ever seen. He carried all before him. He captured Moscow. But then he hesitated. Should he go forward or back? Fate gave him every chance. The winter snows were a full month late in coming. But it took Napoleon all that month to make up his mind. It wasn't the snows that defeated him. It wasn't the Cossacks. It was his loss of faith in himself. What is the reason for most failures in this world? The fact that they first thought failure. They allowed talk of hard times, of scarcity of work, of difficulties, to hold them back. Successful men have no time to think of failure. They are too busy thinking of the things to do that will bring success. You can't fill a vessel already full. You've got to have the faith of a Columbus, crossing an unknown sea, holding a mutinous crew to the task long after they had lost all faith in themselves or in him, and giving to civilization a new world. You've got to have the faith of a Washington defeated, outcast, deserted by most of his own soldiers, yet fighting on and giving to this country a new freedom. The men who have made their mark in this world all have that one quality in common: they believed in themselves. Suppose people do laugh at your ideas. Suppose reason does say it can't be done. People laughed at Galileo. They laughed at Ford. Reason contended for countless ages that the world was flat. Reason said, or so many automotive engineers would have us believe, that the Ford motor wouldn't run. But the earth is round, and the 12th million Ford car is on the road. The mind in you is the same mind that actuated all the great men of the past, all the inventors, all the great artists, statesmen, businessmen. What they have done is but a tithe of what still remains to do of what men of today and tomorrow will do. You can have a part in it. Start now. Look at every object about you with this question: how can that be improved? How can this be done better? To what new use can that be put? I am sending you Volume 4 herewith. Read Chapter 9, The Formula of Success, and Chapter 11, The Law of Attraction, especially carefully. Practice the little mental exercise at the end of Chapter 9. With Volume 6 will give you a blank check for drawing upon the bank of life for whatever you may wish. And I will tell you the parable of Jesus, which gives the whole law of life. Sincerely yours. When you have read Volume 4, practiced it, applied it, fill out the form below for Volume 5 and the blank check on the bank of life. Check form appeared at top. Dear friend, do you remember Jesus' parable of the talents? A merchant was going into a far country, so he entrusted certain of his treasures to his servants to be used during his absence. To the first servant he gave 10 talents. To the second, 5 talents. To the third, 1 talent. The first man took his 10 talents and, by investing them judiciously, made 10 more. The second took his 5 talents, and with them earned 3 additional. But the third man took his 1 talent, and for fear of losing it, went out and hid it in a field. Him the master punished upon his return, but he commended the other 2 and made them rulers over many things. That parable, in my opinion, expresses the whole law of life. The only right is to use all the forces of good. The only wrong is to neglect or to abuse them. Universal mind, it seems to me, has given to each one of us a blank check on which we can write out the number of talents that we want entrusted to us. And the way to use that blank check is to first give value received for it, just as we first deliver goods to our customers or do certain work for our employer before we ask pay for it. We must have an idea or a service or a commodity before we can fill out that blank check. The greater the idea, the more general the service, the more desirable the commodity, the larger the amount we can fill in on our blank check. It all comes back to the law of life. We get as we give, only we usually receive in far greater measure than we give. As Gardner Hunting expressed it, if I give to anybody service of a kind that he wants, I shall get back the benefit myself. If I give more service, I shall get more benefit. If I give a great deal more, I shall get a great deal more. But I shall get back more than I give. Exactly as when I plant a bushel of potatoes, I get back 30 or 40 bushels, and more in proportion to the attention I give the growing crop. If I give more to my employer than he expects of me, he will give me a raise, and on no other condition. What is more, his giving me a raise does not depend on his fair mindedness. He has to give it to me or lose me, because if he does not appreciate me, somebody else will. But this is only part of it. If I give help to the man whose desk is next to mine, it will come back to me multiplied, even if he apparently is a rival. What I give to him, I give to the firm, and the firm will value it, because it is teamwork in the organization that the firm primarily wants, not brilliant individual performance. If my boss is unappreciative, the same rule holds. If I give him more, in advance of appreciation, he cannot withhold his appreciation and keep his own job. The more you think about this law, the deeper you will see it goes. It literally hands you a blank check, signed by the maker of universal law, and leaves you to fill in the amount and the kind of payment you want. Mediocre successes are those that obey this law a little way, that fill in the check with a small amount but that stop short of big vision in it. Now, why am I so sure of this law? How can you be sure? I have watched it work. It works everywhere. You have only to try it, and keep on trying it, and it will prove true for you. It is not true because I say so, nor because anybody else says so, it is just true. Theosophists call it the law of karma, humanitarians call it the law of service. Businessmen call it the law of common sense, Jesus Christ called it the law of love. It rules whether I know it or not, whether I believe it or not, whether I defy it or not. I can't break it. Jesus of Nazareth, without consideration as to whether he was or was not divine, was the greatest businessman that ever lived, and he said, "Give and ye shall receive, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over." And this happens to be so not because he said it, not because God himself said it, but because it is the truth. I am sending you herewith Volume 5 of the Book of Life. Remember, as you read Chapter 14, your needs are met, that you have only to learn how to use the blank check which is in your hands in order to satisfy any need that may confront you. Never worry about your needs. Put them up to your subconscious mind in the way outlined at the end of The Man Who Could Not Lose. What you want to keep thinking about is how you can serve better. Do that and the needs will take care of themselves. As Emerson put it, once we find the secret, we are owner of the sphere, of the 7 stars and the solar year, of Caesar's hand and Plato's brain, of the Lord Christ's heart and Shakespeare's strain. But there is one thing even more precious than riches, the thing that Ponce de Leon searched for in vain for years, that thousands have spent fortunes to find, and that is the fountain of youth. The secret of youth, of glowing health, of boundless energy is in Chapter 12 of Volume 6. It is entitled Why Grow Old? Send next for it. Sincerely yours. When you have read Volume 6, filled out your blank check for whatever you want of life, tear off the form below and send for the Fountain of Youth in Volume 6. Dear friend, you know, of course, that single-celled creatures never die a natural death. Unless killed by accident or other outside force, they live forever. In multicellular animals like man, it is usually some one set of cells that gives out first. The others are good for an indefinite number of years. So the great problem of longevity is how to keep all the millions of cells in your body in as perfect shape as the best of them. Solve that and you can live forever. M. Metelnikov, celebrated member of the Pasteur Institute, has just published a volume that should be read by all those who have decided that it is necessary to grow old and die. Here is the first sentence of the concluding chapter of the book. What we have just written forces us to maintain our conviction that immortality is the fundamental property of living organisms. And further on, old age and death are not a stage of earthly existence, and that, mind you, is set forth under the aegis of a scientific establishment that has no equal in the world, and of a scholar universally respected. Do you know what is responsible for the whole difference between youth and age? Just one thing. Youth looks forward always to something better. Age looks back, ward and sighs over its lost youth. In youth we are constantly growing. We know we have not yet readied our prime. We know we can expect to continually improve. We look forward to ever increasing physical powers. We look forward to a finer, more perfect physique. We look forward to greater mental alertness. We have been educated to expect these things. Therefore we believe we shall get them, and we get them. But what happens after we get to be 30 or 40 years of age? We think we have reached our prime. We have been taught that we can no longer look forward to greater growth, that all we can hope for is to hold our own for a little while, and then start swiftly downward to old age and decay. History shows that no nation, no institution, and no individual can continue for any length of time to merely hold his own. You must go forward or backward. Yours is the choice. If you will realize that there is never any end to growth, that your body is constantly being rebuilt, that perfection is still so far ahead of you that you can continue growing towards it indefinitely. You need never know age. You can keep on growing more perfect, mentally and physically, every day. Every minute you live is a minute of conception and rebirth. Your body wears out? Of course it does, just as all material things do. But with this difference, your body is being renewed just as fast as it wears out. Have you damaged some part of it? Don't worry. Down inside you is a chemical laboratory, which can make new parts just as good or better than the old. Up in your subconscious mind is a master chemist with all the formulas of universal mind to draw upon, who can keep that chemical laboratory of yours making new parts just as fast as you can wear out the old. But that master chemist is like all of us, like you. He is inclined to lazy a bit on the job if you will let him. Try to relieve him of some of his functions and he won't bother about them further. Take to the regular use of drugs or other methods of eliminating the waste matter from the body, and your master chemist will figure that your conscious mind has taken over this duty from him, and he will leave it thereafter to your conscious mind. Lead him to believe that you no longer expect him to rebuild your body along such perfect lines as in youth, and he will slow down in his work of removing the old, worn-out tissues, and of replacing them with new, better material. The result? Arteries clogged with worn-out cells, tissues dried and shrunken, joints stiff and creaky. In short, old age. The fault is not with the master chemist. It is with you. You didn't hold him to the job. When a business or an enterprise or an expedition fails, it is not the rank and file who are to blame, it is the directing head. He didn't give his men the right plans to work on. He didn't supply the proper leadership. He didn't keep them keyed up to their best work. What would you think of an engineer who, with the best plans in the world, the best material with which to build, threw away his plans when he was half through with the job and let his men work as they pleased, ruining all his early work and all his material by putting the rest of it together any which way? Yet that is what you do when you stop looking forward at 30 or 40, and decide thereafter to just grow old any which way. You throw away the wonderful model on which you have been building. You take the finest material in the world and let your workmen put it together any way they like. In fact, you do worse than that. You tell them you don't expect much from them anymore. That any sort of a patched up job they put together after that will be about as good as you can look for. Man alive! What would you expect from ordinary workmen to whom you talked like that? Your inner workmen are no different. You will get from them just what you look for, no more, no less. Your time of life should be the best time you have yet known. The engineer who has built 40 bridges should be far more proficient than the one who has built only a few. The model you are passing on to your master chemist now ought to be a vastly more perfect model than the one you gave to him at 20. Instead of feeling that your heart is giving out and your stomach weak, you ought to be boasting of how much better a heart you are now making than a few years ago, how much more perfectly your stomach is functioning than before you learned that you were its boss. Read the little folder enclosed. Get a perfect picture or statuette of the man or woman you would like to be. Then model yourself on it. In 11 months, that model will be you. Sincerely yours. P.S. I have saved the best of this course for the last. In the final volume, I have given you the gift of the Magi, the greatest of all gifts, the way to win and to keep perfect health. After you have read Volume 6, after you have practiced the suggestions outlined above, send the form below with $1 for Volume 7. Dear friend, you remember reading, in the booklet that accompanied Volume 1 of the Book of Life, how Dr. Cabot of Harvard showed that 3/4 of all illnesses cure themselves? Dr. Raymond Pearl of Johns Hopkins University had an article along the same Lines in a recent issue of the American Mercury. To quote him, "The fact that what we call the curing of disease results primarily from the innate biological powers of the organism is the basis of both the philosophy and the success of the Christian Science faith. The followers of that cult certainly give the vis mediatrix naturae a freer and fairer chance to do its extremely superior best than do any other large body of people in our present civilization." In short, it would seem that there is much of truth in the old Hindu proverb. God gives the mango. The farmer plants the seed. God cures the patient. The doctor takes the fees. Take the miracles of Lord, or of Saint Anne of Beaupre, or of any of the hundreds of shrines that dot the world. Take the cures of Christian Science, of New Thought, of the faith healers. What is back of them all? Just two things. First, desire. Second, belief. "What wouldst thou that I should do unto thee?" asked Jesus of the blind man. "Lord, that I should receive my sight." And again of the cripple at the pool of Bethesda. Jesus asked, "Wouldst thou be made whole?" Of course he would, you say. But that is not the desire that many crippled and infirm put up to their subconscious minds. Rather, they are craving attention, sympathy. They are visualizing pain, imperfection. Instead of concentrating their thoughts on one overmastering desire to be made well, they fritter them away on a host of minor desires. You must have the sincere desire first. That is prayer. Then faith, the kind of faith Jesus so often referred to when he said, "Thy faith hath made thee whole." You must believe not that you are going to be cured but that you are cured. How can you acquire such faith? For those who need something material to hang it upon, here is a simple suggestion. Every night just before you go to sleep, and every morning upon waking, place your hand upon whatever organ is troubling you, and try to picture to yourself the perfect image of that organ. See it just as it should be. Visualize it doing its work vigorously, properly. Shut your mind to everything else and concentrate all your thought on that one organ. Presently you will feel through your fingers a comfortable sensation of warmth, as the blood leaves other portions of your body to concentrate on that one organ. You will know that your subconscious mind has become conscious of your need, that it is sending the blood to the affected part to carry away all infection, to rebuild and replace all worn out or diseased tissues. Let your thoughts dwell then with satisfaction on the thought that your troubles are over, your condition cured. Go to sleep thankfully, secure in the knowledge that you are cured, that you will never again be troubled by pain from that particular source, and that if any other organ should ever trouble you, you can cure it just as easily in the selfsame way. You see, it all goes back to the one fact that mind governs all. Have you ever cut your finger? Who was it coagulated the blood, stopped the gash, wove new skin? What was it called upon the little phagocytes to come and kill the septic germs? Not your conscious mind, certainly. Most people don't even know there are any such animals. Their conscious minds don't know the first thing about healing. Whence comes the information? Whence the directing genius? Where but from the same intelligence that keeps your heart and lungs on the job while you sleep, that regulates your liver and your kidneys, that attends to all the functions of your body. That intelligence is your subconscious mind. With the proper cooperation on your part, your subconscious mind will attend to these duties indefinitely, keeping your every organ perfect, your every function regular as clockwork. But it is exceedingly amenable to suggestion. Worry about sickness or contagion. Hold before it the thought that you are getting old, or that some organ is becoming feeble, and it will be perfectly agreeable to bringing about the condition you suggest. But convince it that there is no danger from contagion, hold before it the thought of health and strength, and it will be just as prompt in manifesting them. So what you must realize is this: before anything can be made, there has to be a model for it in mind. Before a house can be built, there has to be a plan, a blueprint from which to build. Before you were created, universal mind held in thought the model on which you were made. That model was perfect then. It is perfect now. The only idea of you that universal mind knows as a perfect model where every organism is formed along perfect lines. Your body is changing every moment. Every cell, every organism, is constantly being rebuilt. Why remodel along the old, imperfect lines? Why not build along the lines held in the thought of universal mind? You can do it. But the essence of it is in the words of the Master: whatsoever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye receive it, and ye shall have it. Mind you, he didn't say believe you are going to get it. He said believe that you receive it. Know that the real you, the image of you held in subconscious mind, is perfect. Believe that you have this perfect image. On the day that you can carry this sincere conviction to your subconscious mind, on that day you will be healed. Sincerely yours. P.S. If you have been paying your account by the month, there is now a balance of only $2 still due. In order to close that out quickly, I am going to give a copy of Independence by Rudyard Kipling free to all who send in their $2 within 10 days after receipt of Volume 7. Just put your name on the little folder enclosed, attached check, money order, or $2 bill, and mail in the return envelope. The whole purpose of a follow-up letter is to crystallize the interest your prospect has shown into the action necessary to make a purchase. Before you can do that, you must find the bait that is irresistible to him. And that is where the mail follow-up has one advantage over a salesman. A salesman may be able to come back day after day, week after week, but it is an expensive process, and each visit makes it more difficult to get to his man. Yet if he uses all his ammunition on the first visit, and fails to find the motive that will move his man, he is done for. By mail, on the other hand, you can try a different bait each time. Of course, you will never find one that appeals to all your prospects, but it is easy to find the 6 or 7 that reach the hearts of the greatest number and cause them to dig down into their genes and give you the biggest volume of business. And that is the whole purpose of a follow-up.